What's up? I'm Ayla.
Hi, I'm Beth Ann.
And this is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Series Sunday, the day of the week where we talk all about one series and one series only, chock full of spoilers. You know the spiel. If you have not watched the show, press pause, go watch the show, come right back. If you haven't and you're just curious about a show, listen to our expert opinion about whether or not you should watch the show.
So yes, our expertise is amazing. So as per usual, we're going to talk about the details. Today we are talking about We Best Love, which was honestly so popular. This is the show that literally everyone was talking about. Like, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing it on your timeline, seeing it on your Explore feed. It was crazy. So we're talking about both We Best Love #1 for You and We Best Love Fighting Mr. Second in this episode. So this is the entire We Best Love universe, all for you in one place. The nitty gritty is that this aired on WeTV. There were 6 episodes in each season, so 12 episodes in total. Both aired in 2021. If we were talking about #1 for You, which is the first series we're going to cover, that aired in January 2021, first time, and then the special edition just wrapped in August 2021. So lots of stuff. The special edition included some extended cut scenes and things like that, and was just overall very exciting for all of us crazy fans that want to see the perspiration on Sam's arm. That was a real additional cut, in case you're wondering.
Yes.
So those are the details. Let's talk about the synopsis. Tell us.
Yes. So the synopsis. Wait, did you go over the cast?
I did not.
Do the cast.
Okay, cast. Let's talk about our main characters. Gao Shi. Gao Shi is played by Sam Lin, and then Zhu Shuyi is played by everyone's favorite boy, Yu.
Yes. The synopsis. You guys ready? Because it's a good one. It is not a simple thing to like someone because many times we dare not say anything. If the first place is the only way to make you see me, then I will never lose to you before you fall in love with me. Oh my gosh. Zhao Shuyi stared at the class report and saw Gao Shi's name above him again. He didn't understand. He had always ranked second ever since Gao Shi came into his life. For this reason, he was excited to go to college and part ways. He hoped to never see Gao Shi again. In college, he joined the swimming club and was revered by everyone. He was happily enjoying college life until Gao Shi suddenly appeared at the swimming competition during their senior year. This made him wonder why Gao Shi always followed him wherever he went. But little did he know that Gao Shi had eyes for him and would never let him go.
Amazing. Honestly, this show is truly so good. It is so good.
I remember when it came out, I was watching it week by week and I loved it. I loved it so much. It has so many layers. It's so interesting.
It was one of the first BLs I watched because, and purely because I kept seeing Sam and Yu everywhere.
Yeah.
People love We Best Love, and it makes so much sense because the show is so good. And I vividly remember texting you and being like, okay, who is this couple? Who are these boys? Like, I keep seeing them everywhere. Tell me what show it is so I can watch it, because I wanted to be on the inside. I wanted to know what everyone else knew. And it was like the best decision. So we have actually kind of talked about this before in the episode where we talk about tropes. Mm-hmm. And I specifically mention Shuyi and Shide and their relationship as like, I completely understand Zhu Shuyi in this one when he gets so mad at Gao Shi for always beating him. Like, that is the exact opposite of like my personal love language. Like, if you want to get close to me, like, that is not the way, my friend. I literally like we went to a chicken place not that long ago.
Oh
or
my gosh.
it was a Korean restaurant not that
I'm
long
never
ago.
gonna live this down.
You will never live it down. And there was this like spicy chicken challenge. And so we order it, and literally everyone in the restaurant, shout out Settleball Center City in Philly. But everyone in the restaurant from the time we ordered it was like, came and checked it. They were like, are you sure? Like they literally asked us like 3 times, are you sure you want to order this chicken? And we were like, yes, yes, yes. Give us the chicken. Bring us the chicken. And I was and it was at that point, because honestly, when we ordered it, we didn't realize it was like a competition chicken. We had
like, ordered so much food. Additionally,
we were so hungry. We were like, we want this and this and this. And they definitely thought we were insane. and it wasn't until after they checked on us the second or third time that we saw there was a wall behind them that had like all the people that had won this challenge. And that's when we realized. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, we can't lose it. I am such a competitive person that I was like, we have to eat this chicken. There is no other option than the fact that we have to finish this chicken. And I did not finish the chicken. Spoiler alert.
I would not let her finish the chicken. It was just too much food to eat. It had nothing to do with the competition. I am the least competitive person you will ever meet because I'm an only child. And therefore, I had no competition ever. And so I just don't care. And so Ayla was about to like end her life eating this chicken. And I was like, girl, not worth it. Move on.
I was genuinely so upset. And like we did have like a cute little banter with the waiter, and I ended up giving in eventually. But like that is just an example of I am so competitive, and that's why I vibe so much with Zhu Shuyi, because like every decision that he makes and every reaction that he has is exactly the reaction that I would have. He has to be a Virgo. Honestly, my dude has to be a Virgo. There's no other explanation. So him being GAO SHI taking the approach of like, I'm going to compete with you and that's how I'm going to stay close to you. I feel that frustration. And then like my other main way that I just sort of vibe with Zhu Shuyi is the setup for this show, right? Is that Shuyi has a crush on his friend who's a girl, and their other childhood friend, she confesses her love to him.
Yeah.
And Shuyi overhears, and he like and so to their face, he like pops out. He's like, oh my God, I'm so excited for you guys. You're finally getting together. Like, let's go out to eat. I'll treat you to a meal.
Yeah.
And then he literally runs away and cries. That is me. I have like fully done that before. This is a real experience I've had in my life. So I just feel very deeply connected.
The show is so relatable
really
to you.
It truly is.
I like this show because you get this fun dynamic between Shuyi and Shide, and it like right off the bat, like you get this little backstory for each character, but then you suddenly realize like, oh, they've had some connection their whole life. And so it's fun to see that develop. And then Shide helping Shuyi like get over this like crush. And
right, he saves him from this like from all of his friends finding out. He saves him from all his friends finding out, which, as I'm telling you, Shuyi has to be a Virgo. So as his fellow Virgo, on it, like saving him in the face of that embarrassment is like such a big deal. And I totally understand why it works on him. I do think it's really funny. Like this show can be very like emotional and dramatic. And sometimes, I mean, honestly,
so
like
dramatic.
That bridge scene is one of the best scenes in all of BL world
100%.
Across all the countries.
Yes.
But oh my God, if I'm trying to think of a dramatic scene, and sometimes if I'm like purposely trying to be over dramatic, I'll be like, I had no choice because it was you.
Yes. So it's iconic.
It's iconic. But it's also can be very dramatic. And then there are some like heavy moments. And so one of the things that I love about it is the introduction to the side characters, because specifically Bingwei and Sheiyu, because they bring the lightness and like the fun, even though they're so like, specifically Shiji is like so grumpy, but in the most just like adorable and endearing way. He's like the grumpiest little grump, and his comedic timing is on point. And then Bingwei with his like kind of ditzy but like would die for his friends kind of vibe. They're so funny and they're so good together, and they have one of the best like relationship dynamics, I think, because they sort of fall in love. They fall into this relationship, but they themselves don't realize it. Like all of their friends see it first, which I think is so interesting. One of my favorite scenes is after the haunted house, so they really connect in the haunted house when like Shiyu is like scared and he like jumps onto Bingwei. It's very cute and funny. That whole scene is hilarious. But like them trying to find Xiao Shiyu and Gao Shide in the haunted house.
Oh my gosh. And then it turns out like he had this whole elaborate setup to like get them to spend the night together.
Yeah, Gao Shide be plotting
over the top. I know, it's funny because of course, like I was super excited to watch this when it came out. And so I quickly watched it. And then, you know, as you do, there's like 100 more BLs that come out right after it. So like I have rewatched this a few times, but like never really truly paid attention. So when the special edition came out, I like really focused and rewatched it. And I forgot how funny the first season really was. Like it's the pranking at the beginning that, Shiyu ends up taking the brunt of, and just he also has this moment where like he's confessed to Gao Shide and you're like, what?
I will be honest with you, I forgot that happened. So you know, we were preparing and we rewatched, and you had texted me and you were like, do you remember that Richard's character? So if we're talking about side characters, so it probably makes sense to introduce you to side characters now. Our main side characters are Lu Bingwei, and he is played by Evan Lau, and then Shi Jiyu, who is played by Richard Lee, who we love and is a comedic genius, truly. And then you also have Dr. Shu Yi and Xiao Yi. And he is played by Ray, and then Ray Chang. Am I right? Yes.
Yeah.
And then that like those are our really main characters, because Zhao Shuyi does have like his childhood friends, but they don't play as much of a role after the first couple episodes.
Right.
But so all the side characters are really so good, and I think it's so funny when Shi Jae-yu, so like Richard's character, like we were saying, confessing, you're like, do you remember this? And I was like, honestly, no. And I had to go back and rewatch, because I like Jae-yu and Bingwei's relationship is just like a million other people out there. I was so enthralled by them. I thought they had just like the funniest, cutest little relationship.
I know. Whereas Gao Shide and Shu Yi's character can kind of take precedent, and like that heaviness and that like emotion can like really kind of take over. When you start to rewatch it, you're like, oh yeah, there's this like light, fun side characters that really like help lighten the mood a lot of times, especially in the second season too, which we'll get to in a second. The doctor plays an interesting role in both seasons, because he changes in the second season to a different career, which is so funny
for the aesthetic. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why,
but the funny thing about his role is that he is Gao Shide's cousin, but he plays this like Gao Shide and the doctor have this funny dynamic, because in the first season he tries to play it off as though like he has a crush on Gao Shi. And I've noticed in the second season, the character that's pursuing the doctor also thinks that like Gao Shi and him have a thing going on, and he gets in the middle of it again. I'm like, y'all, this is strange.
He honestly, he's like the god of like he is the Loki of this series. Like I think he just lives to create chaos, because every time Gao Shi will like get mad at him over that, he just thinks it's hilarious. Like he is truly so chaotic, and he almost doesn't get the like comedic appreciation that he should. Because if you think about it, that's actually a very funny way to approach the situation, and that he's like, yeah, like he just rolls with it.
The craziest part of the plot in season 1 is that it ends almost as soon as it begins, with like Gao Shi having to fly off to America after they've established this like sweet little relationship. And he's like, I'm just going for a couple months. And then season 2 starts and it's 5 years later.
I freaked out, dude. I was so angry. This truly was like an It's a I Promised You the Moon situation for me, where if you've watched that, if you're anything like me, in I Promised You the Moon, I was so angry I almost didn't finish it, but they saved that for the end. Like you don't have to get mad at Tay until the very end and then maybe not finish. With We Best Love, you're pissed from the first episode. At least I was in a blind rage. But before we move on to Fighting Mr. Second, which is what we're moving into, I do want to talk about, in my opinion, the most iconic scene in the entire show across both seasons.
Yes.
Let's talk about GAO SHI Googling seductive underpants.
That is a great moment, because he's FaceTiming with his 2 friends, and he has confessed that he's fallen for Gao Shi, right? And so he has to then decide how he's going to seduce Gao Shi, I think is like what the whole story is.
And they're like going to hang out because this is like right before he comes to his house, which another really great just like GIF floating around the internet is when Gao Shi's mom is like, so y'all are dating, right?
Yeah.
and both their faces are like, it's amazing. But he's like trying to figure out what to do about it, and he's like, he ends up, and so his friend, the girlfriend who he formerly had a crush on, is like, oh, like you need to wear your best seductive underpants. And it's almost like a This Is Love Story moment too, not to bring in too many BLs, where he's like, what does it mean? And he literally hangs up and he's like, seductive underpants. And he ends up Googling seductive underpants. And then there's like an image search. And it's just it's so funny and iconic. And I use the phrase seductive underpants all the time.
In casual conversation.
Casually.
It's so good. Okay, let's go on to season 2.
Yes. So we've left off at the end of season 1. Gao Shi goes to America to help his mom.
Right.
And then we're like, okay, he'll come back though. ...
Only a few months later. But at some point they did tease that scene where I don't remember when they teased it. If they teased it right at the end of season 1, or if they teased it like in between the release, because these only released like 2 or 3 weeks separate from each other.
Yeah.
So we didn't get a huge time break between the first and second season. So at some
bless, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Bless.
But at some point they did release that clip of Shuyi going to America to visit Gao Shi and seeing him like with this
walking and being very cute. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's at the end of
season
number 1 for you.
Yeah.
Because I was like in a blind rage, a blind rage. Like I saw red. And then luckily I was not watching it live as it was airing, so I could immediately go start fighting Mr. Second, because I was like, I need to know what the tea is here, because this is absolutely not okay with me. So moving into fighting Mr. Second.
Oh, right. Season 1 ends with the slap. That's what we get. And then we got a clip of
it's like a flashback.
Maybe like a week later, I think we got the clip of him going to America.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it jumps ahead, and then you find out the tea, the drama.
They haven't talked in 5 years.
I blind rage when I tell you. So fighting Mr. Second, we do have the addition of one new side character. Everyone else pretty much stays the same. We lose our original childhood girlfriend and boyfriend. We lose them for the second season. And so the addition is Yu Zhenjuan, who is played by Shi Tian.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that.
Apologies.
I did just get schooled in Mandarin, but I don't know how much it stuck. So I tried my best.
We should have asked for them to pronounce all of these names.
We should have.
Oh well,
next time. So synopsis, we've already talked a little bit about what happened, but official synopsis, as we always do, is the sequel to Number One for You takes place 5 years after Zhu Shuyi and Gao Shide graduate from college. Their story will unfold as they juggle work responsibilities with the priorities of their personal lives. First of all, this synopsis is like absolute garbage. I'm sorry, but it also doesn't have any of the main plot points, which is that like
they've lost touch for 5 years.
They're actively fighting throughout the whole thing. Zhao Shuyi is back up.
Gao Shide.
He hates Gao Shide, as he should. First of all, again, another reason I identify with Shuyi. Like, he is a Virgo. He's a Virgo through and through, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But so like, he's also kind of back up to his like prankster ways, but make it adult, make it grown up, because rather than doing things like put baby powder in the hair dryer that then poor Shi Jae-yu has to blow all over himself, rather than making a bottle of Coke explode that explodes all over poor Shi Jae-yu.
Yeah.
Instead, he's like, I'm gonna make him fall in love with me, and then I'm gonna leave him like he left me. Like, my dude for sure got jaded, which I do not even blame him. And another interesting fun twist that they don't talk about is that Shi Jae-yu, so played by Richard Lee, switches camps. He's like, bye. He fully is like, no more. He is no longer Team Gao Shide, which all throughout season 1, he is Gao Shide, like Gao Shide number one fan. And then season 2 comes around, and like, he and his boyfriend Bing Wei are living their best lives, working for working for Zhao Shuyi in the world's most beautiful suits. Yes. Can we just take a moment before we get deeper into the plot and appreciate
the styling?
Oh my God, the styling.
Yeah, they made them grown-ups in the best way possible, putting them in suits.
Has there ever been any better styling? I'm going to say no.
No, it's solid. I totally believe that they were all grown-ups and in big boy jobs.
And just the suits were beautiful. Like, these were not just your basic businessman suits. Like, you know, sometimes you'll see in other BLs when they like graduate, particularly if you get a second season or if one of them graduates midway, they're sort of like workwear. This is not this is not business casual, my friends. This is like 3-piece suit with a pocket watch and like a calligraphy pen. Like, we are talking like international tech giant business men in the most elite kind of way. And it's gorgeous.
It is solid. During the first, I want to say it's the first episode, I think, right after Shu Yi has confronted Gao Shide for the first time in 5 years. They're sitting in the car Shu Yi, Bing Wei, and Ziyu, and they're having this funny conversation where the relationship between Bing Wei and Shiyu hasn't really been established. Like, it hasn't been said outright, right? Like we talked about in season one, like
they haven't explicitly said we're dating.
Right. Like there's a moment in the cafeteria where they're all sitting there and like they're feeding each other, and the four Gao Shi and Shiyu and the friends are like, wait a second, when did this happen?
I love that scene because they all just go,
yeah.
And it's outstanding. But yeah, no, at this point, and this is episode 1, I believe, of 5 Minutes Per Second, they haven't explicitly told us that Bingwei and Jaeyu have like finally declared their love for each other.
Right. But in the second season, they're sitting in the car. In the second season, they're sitting in the car and they're like trying to help Shiyu like process this whole situation. And that little conversation, because again, the heaviness of Gao Shide and Shiyu is like kind of over the top at times, which we absolutely love. But the lightness and comedic relief that these two bring to this show is so welcome and nice, because they're having a conversation. Shiyu is like, leave me alone. You're not a part of this. It's my relationship. Because they're like, oh, do you still like him? Like, are you going to go after him again? Or
and
is
he
this gonna be a thing?
Basically is like, wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah, he like shuts him down. And then they start to talk between each other where Shiyu's character, or Shiyu actually like chastises Bing Wei and is like, you shouldn't have asked him that. Like it starts to
they
show,
bicker.
Like,
they have this little like this like old couple bickering. And I think that's when you realize that like at this point they've been dating for 5 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God. They honestly, these two actors and their chemistry together is so good.
And it's so natural.
And they feel very just like real, and they play off of each other really well. So if you watch out of series content, which we usually talk about in Series Sundays, the out of series content for Sam and Yu is outstanding. But if you really want to like watch something good, go watch out of series content for Richard and Evan.
Yeah.
Because the way that they like their friendship is very easy, and like they're very complimentary in terms of personality, and it's really fun to watch.
It really is.
Highly recommend.
And bless that people have translated their lives, because there's some fun conversations that they have. Because fun little side note, so they did release a ton of the like workshops and behind the scenes footage for this series. They also did a ton of press conferences when they started releasing this. And there's this interesting moment where Evan talks about the fact that he went to school for screenwriting. He's in school now for screenwriting. And so he got on like, I think Clubhouse, and was talking with fans, and they were then talking about like writing fanfic for these characters, like because this is what he enjoys doing. And there's a moment where they're like, Richard, do you know about this? And he's like, I don't know. And he just like you see their friendship where he's like, they just kind of let each other be who they are, but they have a fun like friendship between the two of them that really works well together. And I really like those moments where you kind of see more about these actors behind the scenes, as well as like how this I think that's why the show is so good, because they're
so beloved
too. It's such easy chemistry for sometimes like a crazy heavy storyline, because there's some like intense moments like the confessions and like just all the things.
And Gao Shide goes through it in this second season in Fighting Mr. Second.
I mean, as he should. Although the storyline is very, very layered in the second season, because you come to find out that like as soon as Gao Shide went to the US, his mom got married, but it turns out she was pregnant. And then suddenly he had to like help his mom.
And she had like a traumatic pregnancy.
Yeah.
And was like in the hospital, and it was a whole thing.
And he has a stepsister.
I still don't understand why like his internet connection didn't work. In my opinion, I am fully on Jushuyi's side.
Okay,
because
so
like
remember we find out that he has been emailing Shu Yi, but Shu Yi's dad has been intercepting them.
right.
So
But
he doesn't get that communication.
bro, you have Line, you have Kakao Talk, you have WeChat. Like we have ways to contact you. If you were that worried, like I don't know, text like Evan or Richard and be or Bingwei or Shayu. Be like, yo, like where my dude at? Like honestly, you have ways. So I do understand Shuyi being like, too little too late, my friend. But yeah, so you're introduced in this season to Shuyi's dad, who he has like alluded to a lot in the first season, and you know that he's rich. But in Fighting Mr. Second, you're introduced to him. And what's really interesting about his dad is he's like the villain, right? Because you find out that he has essentially intercepted Gao Shide, who has like chased after Shu Yi. And he like intercepts him and is like, don't talk to my son. And he basically like he makes a deal with him, and it like the deal expires. And that's why Shu Yi, or that's why Gao Shide comes back into Shu Yi's life when he does. And so and also because there is this like business kerfuffle where Shu Yi is purchasing Gao Shide's company, and it's like a whole thing, or the other way around. They're like business associates now. And so what's interesting about his dad is that he's the villain, and he very clearly is outlined as the villain, and he acts like a villain. But he's also really funny. I just really appreciate the script writing in this, in the way that they bring the comedy in.
And the actors that deliver it are so good.
Yeah. And so one of my favorite scenes in Fighting Mr. Second, there are a lot of really good scenes in Fighting Mr. Second. One of my favorite is when his dad shows up at his house and he finds Gao Shide like passed out, because the night before Gao Shide has like gotten drunk, and he comes over and it's like a whole thing. If you have watched this, you know what I'm talking about. It's a whole thing.
You've watched those behind the scenes like 100 times.
It's the whole thing. And so his dad shows up and he's like, son, I have brought you breakfast. And I am married to somebody whose father does that on the regular, so I really relate to this. And
I'm just gonna call you Shu Yi from now on.
Yes. And so he walks in and he sees Gao Shide on this couch in the living room, like half naked. And they end up getting in this fight because finally Gao Shide like reveals what his dad has done. And Shu Yi is pissed, as well he should be.
At both of them.
Again,
solidly.
as well he should be. But my favorite scene, I love this scene so much because it's so dramatic, which but like in the funniest way. So he's fighting with his dad and he's like, I do everything that I do to try and impress you, and I just want this one thing, and you can't tell me who I can love, and you can't tell me who I can date. And then he turns and he's like, but I still don't want to date you. And he's like, he's so just dramatic and angry. That's so funny. But my favorite line in the whole thing is he's like kicking his dad out of his house. And in his house you have to walk upstairs to go out the front door. And so he's like walking his dad out of his house, and he's kicking his dad out. And he's like talking about how at one point he climbed a mountain to impress his dad. He did like mountain climbing, and he just stops and he yells, I almost died on that mountain. And honestly, like I was in tears. And that's another one. That's another phrase that I use all the time in addition to Seductive Underpants is I'll just randomly be like, I almost died on that mountain. I love it so much. And then at the end of this scene, both Gao Shide and his dad have been kicked out of the house, and they're just sitting on the curb in front of the house.
And then they go to a bar and like have a come to Jesus that is like so good. And then that's when you kind of get more bits and pieces put together when Gao Shide has finally learned that like Shiyu came to see him, and that potentially he mistook his stepsister as his like girlfriend, all these things. I will say, side note, props to the casting director for casting you, because the casting story for you is so interesting. So you is actually he's half Japanese, half Taiwanese, I believe, and he was in Taiwan for school, but he had been releasing like I think Taiwanese music, if I'm not mistaken, and but they knew he was Japanese, and so they just contacted him not knowing if he could speak Mandarin at all, hoping that he could, and they cast him. Because I will say, like, the beauty of you and just like his overall like demeanor and beauty, I think really also balances out this character where like he's throwing this temper tantrum essentially half of this series, both seasons.
He literally is just angry all the time, and in most cases I hate that,
but him doing it is like so enjoyable.
And the thing is, he's mad all the time, but I feel like he has a right to be mad all the time. Everything 100%. He's mad about is something that I'm like, I understand why you're angry. He's not angry for no reason.
And I will say he doesn't take it out on anyone unnecessarily. Like, that is truly what I will say about really any personality trait. If you are a human in this world and you are in a bad mood, don't take it out on other people that it has nothing to do with, because that is annoying and there's no reason for that. And so with Shu Yi, he never does that. He's just grumpy. And in fact, he tells Gao Shi to like leave him alone most of the time. He's like, you're only a part of this because like you're putting yourself in this position. Like, you don't have to be here. I don't want you around. And Gao Shi is like, I love you, so I'm here for this. But yeah, it's so good.
It's so good. I would say my other favorite scene is a sweet one, not a funny one, which is very like out of character for me. I don't normally like the like sweet, you know, like sickly sweet stuff. But my other favorite scene is when Bingwei and Shayu are getting engaged.
Yes.
I love that this show essentially ends with them getting engaged.
Yeah.
Because number one, if we get a season 3, I cannot wait to see that wedding. And I really feel like Bingwei is going to be a bridezilla, like because logically, you know that Shayu is like kind of grumpy, so you would think that he would be the bridezilla. I think it's going to be Bingwei personally.
Amazing. 100%.
I wish is there a groomzilla? Is that a word? I don't know.
We'll go with it.
So yeah, I think he's going to be the groomzilla for sure. And I cannot wait. Also because I live for a wedding scene. Can you imagine with how good of styling that they did with the suits for Fighting Mr. Second? Imagine the tuxes for this wedding. Solid. They're going to be out of this world. Anyways, so number 1, love a wedding scene. So I am hyped. Number 2, I love it so much because it's cute and funny, and they get like appropriately embarrassed about it, which I just feel like is so true to life. Yeah. Because before he goes to do it, so Bingwei is the one who proposes, and Bingwei is talking to Gao Shi, which is kind of like a role reversal, because if you remember from the first season, Bingwei is Shu Yi's friend,
right,
and Shayu is Gao Shi's friend,
right.
But obviously they all sort of come together, and in this moment when he's about to propose, he's talking to Gao Shi, and he's like, I've kept this ring in my car because I didn't want him to find it. And he's just like really going through. He's like so nervous, and Gao Shi is just like, take a breath. He's like, it's gonna be fine, just calm down.
Yeah.
And it is just like, it's a very sweet and earnest, and then the proposal itself is so cute. It just makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
And then once they propose, all of the friends like cheer and come out, and then they have this celebration dinner, and they're kind of like appropriately like giggly. So Bingwei and Shayu are like appropriately sort of like giggly and bashful about it, but also excited. And it is just the most wonderful scene. There's only one other BL that I have watched that has like a proposal scene in it and a wedding, like an actual like we're gonna get married plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like out of the two I've seen, this is superior. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. I will say this is the one BL where that I can think of that I really and genuinely would interchange the main couple for the side couple. Like,
me too.
I'd be okay with it being like a whole nother season with just Bingwei and Shiyu and their development of their storyline.
Yeah. Give us a Richard and Evan drama. I'm here for it.
100%.
So and I think what's interesting is a lot of people feel that way. And that's not something that you get a lot across the BL world. Like, you don't normally get like a consensus. The only other time I've seen it happen was Tonhon Chonlati, where people like the consensus was like, can we just swap? Like, can I get my own series for these two? Yeah. Which, by the way, if you love those characters, this is an aside, that is getting its own series. Let's just manifest that for this.
Yes. Yeah. So then to finish this up, the other almost side story, like I wouldn't even call them a side couple, because in season 2, we get this whole other side story of the doctor from season 1 is now a restaurant owner. And then the CTO of GAO SHI's company is this, who you find out was the student at the school that kind of fell in love with the doctor. And so the doctor was like running away from this whole situation and started like this restaurant.
Because it's been established that the doctor is like, I can't fall in love.
Yeah, he has like borderline personality disorder or something,
right? He like doesn't feel emotion. He establishes this from season 1. Like, he talks about it, right? But in season 1, you always see him saying like, you remind me of a student that I used to talk to, or you remind me of an annoying student, a student that used to annoy me. And he has this mug. And so this whole like side storyline, which is the ultimate finale episode. So really, like, the big finale is the engagement, but there's like a next episode that really like digs into the conclusion of this relationship.
Right.
And just the layering of it to carry it that far, I think is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think if there's a season 3, we are going to see a lot more development of that.
Right.
Which I think will be cool and interesting, because essentially what I like about it is the doctor was like, number 1, I can't fall in love, but he was like, number 2, like, you were my student, like, this was inappropriate. I left because this was an inappropriate situation, and like, you were a kid. And he very much like distances and acknowledges that like that's not an okay dynamic, that they have to have their own like separate adult relationship.
Right.
And they do like that
12 years.
It's been a very long time. Yeah. Because the CTO is older than Sam and you. But they very much like, and he sort of forces that like they need to have a separate adult relationship that is not contingent on anything that happened back when this boy was in high school. Right. And I think the way that they handle that is really good, because sometimes in some BLs they handle that type of setup, in my opinion, inappropriately.
Totally.
And so I will say I did appreciate that he was like, and specifically if I'm thinking about like Trapped with the bodyguard and the sister, like the way that they handled that, in my opinion, wasn't the right way to handle that. But in We Best Love, they very much established that like this is a separate adult, like almost brand new relationship that just like happens to have some history. It's still not my favorite trope, but I think they did it very like respectfully, and I think they did it the right way. Like, if you're gonna do it, this is the way to do it.
Totally. Yeah, again, the show is top notch. Honestly, We Best Love, if you're trying to get someone into BLs, probably might be the show to show people. Although
it's the right amount of funny and serious. I just know your audience. We've said it before. Just know your audience. But
it's too quick of a watch for us. But it is like if you're going to ease somebody into the BL world, We Best Love.
Yeah.
So good.
So good is the only way to end this. And if you love We Best Love the way we love We Best Love, tongue twister for you there. If you love We Best Love like we love We Best Love, then definitely like, subscribe, rate, comment, but especially subscribe. Please do hit that subscription, hit the notification bell, favorite on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you are listening on, because if you love,
you're gonna say it again.
If you love We Best Love like we love We Best Love, no,
we're getting t-shirts made.
Yeah, no, if you love Bingwei and Shayu like we love Bingwei and Shayu, our comedic kings, then there is more coming up with a certain victim of pranks that I'm just telling you you're gonna want to watch and listen to. I'm just telling you.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And we'll see you next time on Let's Talk BL.